Hello, everyone. My name is Coach David. I am sorry for the delay, right? I will explain myself. It is 5:04 on Wednesday, August 6th, 2025. We are here today. We're going to be talking about saving money. We're going to talk about middle-class income families, right? And you're going to be a little bit shocked at the information that I'm going to provide you. Now, the reason why I was late today was because the presentation that I had made disappeared. I cannot find it. I was trying to remake it, right? I wasn't able to do all of it. So I'm going to talk through a lot of things. It's going to be a little bit different. There's not going to be a slide for every single piece of the puzzle. And I also ask that the people here today, if you guys have questions as I'm going through this piece, please make sure to ask those questions. Okay. I want to try to make our trainings a little bit more interactive with the questions that you guys have, kind of going back and forth. I might even do a little bit of a kind of like, hey, ask anything in the weeks to come. Please look out for that as well if you have specific questions, right? Obviously, I can only answer if you guys give me a little bit more background, right? So you need to be comfortable with doing that, right? In a public setting, right? But we do have the kind of like messages straight to the host and panelists or to the Q&A so that just I can see it and then you can kind of explain your situation and then I can kind of take out any identifying information and then kind of explain it to the group. Okay. But basically today we're going to be talking about middle income families, what middle income actually means, right? And kind of like what that means and how you can save money. Okay. Now, again, one of the things I do ask is that if you guys can go ahead and put your child's grade into the chat, that would be great. For those that I'm seeing here for the first time, I'm sorry you're coming this week because my presentation disappeared on me. I only have a portion of it because I was trying to do it before the session. That's why I was a couple minutes late trying to get a last slide or two in there. But if you guys can, go ahead and put your student's grade into the chat so that we can talk. Now, I've had a lot of consultations in the past 10 days. So much that like I'm dreaming about the consultations because that's probably what I'm saying like throughout the whole day, right? I'm talking about the different financial situations, this and that. I see a lot of spatterings, like I see 9, 10, 11, 12. I even see a seventh grader in here. Hello, family, you're starting early, so good about that, right? So I want to make sure that everyone understands the situation. Now, the things that I'm going to be telling you here today aren't necessarily groundbreaking. You might already know them, right? But how they affect your financial aid, maybe you don't really understand. So we'll kind of talk about that and figure that out. Okay. So let's go ahead and kind of get started, right? If my mouse will work, right? So we're going to talk about what a lot of families miss out on because they think this or that. We're also going to be talking about what does the middle class even mean nowadays, right? At a California level, at a kind of more national or federal level, right? And one other thing is that technically speaking, the name of our company has changed. It's not a big change, right? It's something that we did a while ago, but I wanted to make sure that you guys knew so that you guys aren't freaked out when you get an email by us or this or that, right? So our new name is now just egelloC Financial Aid. Nothing crazy, nothing kind of fancy, right? It's just egelloC and financial aid. That's it. Okay. For those of you guys that don't know, right, egelloC is just college spelled backwards, right? Once you see it, right now you can't unsee it. Okay. But just a little bit about me. My name is Coach David, right? I'm a former law school and college admissions reader. I also have done financial aid for 15 years alongside college admissions, right? I'm one of the head coaches in our coaching program. I am also the one and only person that will be working on your financial aid if you're part of our services. Okay. And I'm ready to help you save you guys money, right? College is getting more and more expensive, right? College has realistically over the last, I believe it's the last like 15, 20 years has gone up 700% in cost. Okay. My paycheck has not gone up 700%. If yours has, please raise your hand or say me in the chat. But I don't know if anyone else is seeing that type of growth or that type of increase in cost anywhere else, right? But for college, it's gone crazy, right? So we want to make sure that we are preparing for college, understanding the process. Okay. Looks like we have some more seventh and eighth graders. So welcome, right? Again, starting early is the best option, right? Now, one of the pieces that I always do is financial aid news when we come to our trainings, because I want you guys to understand exactly what is going on in the financial aid world, right? Now, there might be some parents that are nerdy enough to go out there and see what's going on, but usually no one's as nerdy about financial aid news as me, right? But this week, I bring something to the table that I'm not happy about, right? But that I've been saying for the last decade, right? and no one has really been listening to me. So I'm just really happy that it is memorialized in a news article. Okay, so here is the news, right? Like I said, I have said it all along, right? Finally, an article actually has also stated it, right? So the article states too many students think they're ineligible for financial aid, right? So just this last year, for the class of 2025, only 55% of the class of 2025 applied for financial aid. Okay. Now, the numbers seem a little bit off, but these were the numbers in the article. So those were what I pulled. But it said out of 4 million graduating seniors, 1.6 million did not complete the FAFSA form, right? 1.6 million students, right? Even if they were going to get $10 a piece, that's $16 million in financial aid, right? That was not given out, right? If they got $100, that's what? 160 million if each of them had gotten a $100 financial aid award, right? That's not a small amount of money, right? But here's what I think are the biggest problems. And the article has also kind of said that these have been the biggest problems. They did a survey of kind of like students that are applying to financial aid. The biggest problem is that a lot of people still think that the FAFSA is just there in order to get you loans. A lot of families, they don't want to go into debt. I get it, right? And so they try to find other ways to pay for college. Usually the other ways to pay for college, pulling from your home equity or taking a home equity loan, right? Getting other personal loans, this and that, so on and so forth. A lot of those things might negatively affect, your financial aid in the longer run, like in year 2 or year 3 or year 4, right? But nevertheless, a lot of families, a lot of students do not apply for to FAFSA because they think that it is just loan based. That is not the case. The FAFSA is just a preliminary form that needs to be submitted in order for the colleges and other kind of institutions to decide if you're going to get aid or not. The FAFSA doesn't necessarily give you anything. The FAFSA is just a system, right? Just because you fill out a credit check for, to get a loan does not mean that the credit check is giving you the money. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, whoever else it is that is your financial institution is the person that is giving you the money. Okay. So you can think about FAFSA as like the credit check. Okay. Now, there was also a huge percentage, about 15% of people that said that they did not fill out the FAFSA because they were worried about the glitchiness, right? Now, realistically, why wouldn't you still apply if you're worried about the glitchiness, right? What's the worst that can happen? You don't get anything. Well, if you just didn't do it anyway, well, that's the same result. So for those that are worried about the glitchiness, you can deal with that later, right? If you're thinking you're not going to get anything anyway, there's no harm in it being glitchy, right? So realistically, the people that chose that option, I think that they just forgot or they were too embarrassed to actually say, oh yeah, I just didn't do it because I forgot about it. And so that's why they just marked that choice on that survey. Okay. Because there's no reason why you would not turn it in if you're already thinking you're going to get zero. Okay. All right. So that is the news I brought today. I wanted to kind of brag that I've been right all along. So again, for those that have been around with me for, a year and a half, 2 years since I've joined egelloC, then you know what I'm talking about, right? But I always say, right, any news that comes out, I'll try to bring it to you guys first and foremost, so that you guys have kind of all of the kind of like new news that's out there about financial aid, right? Over the last couple of weeks, I talked about the implications of the big beautiful bill, right? All these different pieces, right? So I'll try to keep you updated on anything new that comes out. Okay. But for today, right? Before I get into the training, I have a quick message. I don't have that weird kind of logo there anymore, the financial aid secrets. We are just egelloC Financial Aid now. But egelloC Financial Aid and egelloC Coaching, right? Those are kind of parts of, again, we're under the same umbrella, right? But for egelloC, there is something I want to tell for the class of 2026, right? For the class of 2026, we do have packages that can still help you. We have different packages, right? They have different touch points. They have different kind of turnaround times for essays, all these different things, but we have different packages that can help your senior get to the finish line from here. Now, with our students, we've been working with them since April, right? Now, you might be thinking, oh, it's too late for my student, right? It's already August. Well, it's better late than never. So if you are interested in talking to our team about any class of 2026 programs we have available, please do so like this week, right? I'm not going to say tonight, right? But our our team of kind of like advisors has been on call for the last 3 weeks because we've had a barrage of class of 2026 students trying to meet with us to figure out what program makes sense for them, right? They're working weekends, they're working early, they're working late. So please make sure to reach out if you have any questions about it or if you want to learn more. Okay. But let's get into our training today, and it's about understanding the middle class. Okay. So, first, we're going to talk about what the middle class looks like nationally. Okay. Now, I want to make this interactive, like I told you guys, right? So, in the chat, in the Q&A, wherever you feel comfortable, can you guys tell me what income range you guys would consider middle class on a national level across the United States, right? I'm gonna wait until at least I have like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 responses. So get your keyboards out. What is the income range that you would consider middle class, right? In America, across the board. Okay, so we have some answers coming in. We have 200K, we have 150, we have 75, we have 98,000. A very, very specific number, right? 80 to 120K, 80 to 150K. All right, so we got like around seven. So, okay, we'll stop there. Okay, so all of you guys will be surprised at what is considered middle class, right? I will tell you, and this is from the Census Bureau, this is what they consider middle class in America today in 2025. Here it is. If you make between $50,000 and $155,000 per year, you are considered middle class. You guys might be thinking to yourself, how is that even possible? Right? I get it, right? The dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. 50K maybe 20 years ago, 50K now, very different amounts, right? But we're going to go further into this and then why it harms a lot of our California families. I understand a lot of our families here are not in California, but if you are in a state where the cost of living is much higher, I would say places like California, places like New York, places like New Jersey, right? Possibly Virginia, right? These are areas where the cost of living is higher and salaries are higher, right? Because of that, but it's not really factored into the equation. Okay. Now, that's the US. Okay. Now, there's a California person here. Good. Right. So in California, let's do this same exercise. What do you guys think is considered middle class in California? Right. Obviously, we got Silicon Valley, we got Hollywood, we got all these great things. We got SeaWorld, San Diego, we got all these things, right? Right. We have a comment here. It says, we can barely live in California on that. Yes, I understand. Right. So, what do you guys think is kind of like the middle class incomes in California? Bay Area, 350 to 400K. Oh my God. Right. I'm poor. Right. We have 150K, 120 to 180, 250. Okay, you guys, thank you guys so much. It's really nice to feel the energy from the audience, right? 150, okay? Middle class in California should be 200. Yeah, I know. There was actually like it comes out every year and it's like, "Oh, middle class in the Bay Area, like if you make less than 100K in the Bay Area, it is considered like you are like a lower income status, right? You can't live on it, right? That's what they say every single year, right? I don't know. Maybe one year it's going to jump to 150, right? It might jump to 180. Who knows what happens? But let me tell you, California is a very diverse place too. We have places of extreme wealth. We also have places of extreme poverty, right? Or lower, lower incomes or poverty, right? So this is what the income levels that California has dictated are considered middle class. And here they are. Don't be surprised. I'm gonna get to it, right? Here is what it is. If you in California make 62 to $183,000, you are considered middle class. Now, I can envision it in my head. Every parent is on their couch right now and be like, "No, that's not possible. It's not possible." Right? I'm middle class. I make more than that, but I'm middle class. I can't even afford a vacation this year. I get it, right? Um, we have someone that says, should be 200, 250K, but definitely isn't. Yeah. So here's the thing, right? I know that a lot of you guys are like slapping your thighs right now, like, oh my God, that's so wrong, stomping your feet because you're angry. But This is what the census information is giving us. This is what the people that have reported their incomes and the information that the government has given or has gotten, this is what middle class incomes look like in California, right? Now, right? The question is, well, if you make 185, you are now considered high income, right? It is in California, again, let's say you have two kids, right? You have, and again, you have to understand this is gross incomes. This is not after tax incomes, gross incomes, right? So if this is your gross income, you're going to pay, let's just say an even 20, let's call it 180, right? Let's say you're going to pay 25,000 in, or 20, like, let's say 25% in taxes. So that's 45,000 gone. So now you're at 135, right? Out of 135, you have to pay for your mortgage, you have to pay for your car note, you might have to do like insurance stuff, this and that, so on and so forth. So take out another, I don't know, 50 grand, 60 grand, right? So now you're at 75, right? Now you have to pay for the kids' new clothes every 6 months because they're getting bigger, right? They need to buy shoes every 100 days because their feet are getting bigger, right? All these things, let's call that another 15 grand a year. So now you're at 60, right? You want to try to put money into your retirement, right? But if you max it out, you're going to have no cash flow. So let's say you put 10 grand in, right? Now you're at 50, right? Your kid needs braces, right? It's another 8 grand. Now you're down to 42, right? And then you guys decide that, you know what, you worked really hard this year. You should deserve a vacation. So you book a, I don't know, week vacation in Hawaii. Let's call it $7,000, right? And so now, realistically, you're down to $35,000. The question becomes on a $180,000 salary, right? How can you afford to go to a UC even that costs $45,000 a year? The answer is you can't, right? I'm sorry if I just made it very real for people right now. The reason why I want to do this is because I need you guys to understand that the colleges, they know the same information I do, right? But they're still trying to screw you, right? So, um, that is kind of like the situation that I want to make sure that you guys get across when you're doing your financial aid forms. You might make 180, but after this, after that, what I tell my families in our consultations and as I'm working with them is that, you know what? You make $200,000, I'm gonna make you the poorest $200,000 making family in California. You make 300, I'm gonna make you the poorest $300,000 making family in California, right? So we have some questions here and I'm going to answer them, right? It says family income or one parent income. So when they're talking about incomes, like middle class incomes, they're talking about the household income, right? We have another question or the kind of another comment here. It says crazy that any qualifying things for credit or financial aid, they use gross income when that's not actually what we live on. Yeah, of course, right? But that's the number that they usually ask for, right? Now they also do look at your after-tax income too, right? But the first number that they always look at is that first one, right? Now, here, right, making $180,000 a year with what I just told everyone about, unless you're the most frugal person in the world, right? Buying a house, maybe not even possible, right? And plus, there's a weird thing about California, right? Great weather, right? Most of the time, but there's a high cost of living, and it gets even weirder because California is like the starter of the weird compensation package, right? Now, if you have a weird compensation package, can you put like a yes or Y in the chat real quick? I'm waiting for them to come in because I know that there's a bunch of people that have weird compensation packages. If you're not just getting paid hourly, if you're not just getting paid a base salary, put a Y in the chat. Okay, I see a bunch coming in the Q&A, right? I see another one in the chat. I see another one in the chat. Another one in the Q&A. There are people that have weird compensation packages. Literally, the tech industry started these weird compensation packages. Did they exist before? I'm sure they did, but I wasn't cognizant of them before I started financial aid. It's just when I started financial aid that I realized that people get paid in very different ways, right? But in California, again, it has some of the wackiest compensation packages. Usually what it consists of is base salary plus bonuses plus stocks, right? But here is the problem with that compensation package and how it affects your financial aid. Okay. So base salary, that's the same for everyone. Give me a second. I can take a drink of water real quick. That's the same for everyone, right? The base salary, what you get paid every year, what you're guaranteed. Your bonus, That could come out, that could not come out. Some people have a guaranteed bonus, some people don't have a guaranteed bonus, right? A little bit different. And then you have stocks. Usually these are restricted stock units, right? What that means is that for a certain period of time, you're not able to do anything with them. They need time to vest, usually somewhere in the range of 3 to 4 years. After 3 to 4 years, they become sellable, if you want to call them that, right? And then you can do with them as you please, right? But this is why it hurts your like California family situations. I've seen so many families that make five, six, $700,000 a year, but their cash flow is actually only 150, right? Here's the reason why, right? Your stocks are not actual cash flow, right? The stock, like let's say that your base salary is $200,000. Your bonus every year, right? If a company hits a certain benchmark is $50,000. And then let's say that your stocks, right, are $300,000 a year, right? Again, if the company hits certain benchmarks, right? So that means your base salary at 250 plus your bonus at 50 plus your stocks at 300, the total of that is $600,000. Okay. But here's the problem with that. So your base and your bonus, that's cash value. That's actually money coming into your checking account. So that's $300,000 for the year. The stocks, right? The stocks that you pay taxes on are from the ones that have vested from 4 years ago that are actually vesting in that current year. So let's say you had $300,000 of stocks, that is vesting. The problem is that unless you sell those stocks, well, you're not really going to get that actual cash flow, but you have to pay taxes on that extra $300,000. So you only have $300 in or $300,000 in cash flow, but you have to pay taxes on 600,000. Let's say again, for simple math, we just call it 25%. 25% of $600,000 is 150K. Okay. So from our actual cash flow, which is 300, we have to pay 150K worth of taxes. That leaves us with an actual cash flow of 150K. Now, having said that, could you sell your stocks? Yeah, you could, but there's capital gains, right? So you're hurting yourself again because once you sell, right? Let's say you sell your stocks, you sell all your stocks that year, $300,000. Well, you have to pay the capital gains on that stock as well, right? So again, while the company, it seems really nice because they're giving you all this money, it's not actually money and it actually hurts you when you sell, when you do all this. That's why a lot of people leave their stocks as stocks, right? And so when they do, right, what ends up happening is that their cash flow diminishes, right? You'd be very surprised at how many families that make three, four, $500,000 come to me and they're like, my cash flow situation is really bad, right? It looks like I'm rich on paper, but I'm not, right? I'm pulling money from my retirement every single month to pay the bills. I get your situation, right? So, right? Again, that's why I always tell families, you need to come and talk to me, right? That's why this whole idea of like, oh, you know what? You make 150, you make 200, right? You make 250 in California, especially in the Bay Area, you're middle class. No, that's what society is saying. But what the government and what the colleges are saying is that you make 250, you're rich. You're stinking rich. So if you're in that category where you're at 200, right? You need to remember the colleges think you're rich. So we need to be in a position to fight them about it. Okay. All right. So we have a couple questions. I want to make sure we get to them as we're going through here, right? Let me see if I missed anything. I don't think so. We have a question. It says, does our AGI on our taxes add up to salary, stock, and bonus? And is that what FAFSA uses? Yes, it does, right? It also says, does FAFSA differentiate between RSUs and employee stock purchase plans? Are they different types of stocks treated differently for FAFSA? So RSUs, so the RSUs have a vesting time usually, right? And again, I'm not a stock expert. I just know what I know because I've talked to too many people, right? So if I'm wrong, someone please tell me, right? But I've done this for long enough. I think I'm pretty right, right? But the RSUs are stocks that are given a vesting period. So again, you have to wait a certain amount of time until they become eligible to be sold or this or that, whatever it is. But when you're talking about kind of like the like do they differentiate between your stocks? What's on your tax return for that year should be the stocks that are vesting in that year. The RSUs that you receive in 2025 will not be on your 2025 tax return. They'll be on a later tax return when they actually vest. Okay. So keep that in mind there. But as far as your stock purchases or like this, like the different plans that you can have, the restricted stock units, when they become unrestricted when they vest versus the employee stock purchase plan, they're seen as the same thing when you're getting taxed on it on your taxes for that particular year. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I know I was like trying to be very technical about it, right? But that's the situation there. Okay. So in California, I understand the pain that we're in. I live in California. I live in the Bay Area. I live in one of the, like, technically one of the highest median income areas in the East Bay. Okay. So I know all of the families around me. They're like, they have the same problems, right? My neighbors come up to me and they kind of like they complain all the time, right? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I wish I could do more. There's only a certain amount that I can do, but for the families I can help, I want to make sure that I save them a bunch of money. Okay. All right. So just a couple things that you need to be careful of, right? I always tell families, rumors are the biggest problem when it comes to financial aid. Rumors are probably the reason why 50% of the population that was applying for colleges that didn't apply for financial aid, right? So don't let anyone else affect your decision making. Make sure you make your own informed choice, right? Again, you're not out of luck, right? You don't make too much money. I already explained the situation. You make $600,000, $300,000 is stocks, right? Your cash flow is 150 at the end of the year, right? You're not making too much money. Yes. Are you preparing for your future? And is your future going to be a little bit more secure? Yes, that is the case. But that doesn't mean that the like you can just like cash out all your stock, right? So again, there are opportunities for your family, right? You can get money for college, right? Even if you own your home, you can get a college. I've gotten families that have multiple rental properties get money for college as well, right? And the biggest thing that was out in the article too, do not think that it's just about getting loans. Okay. So start prepping early, right? Class of 2026, make sure that your 2024 tax returns are kind of either done or they're going to be done soon, right? Again, I even have very, very early families sign up, right? I had a family today. They had a seventh grader. Like, oh, we're super early, right? And I was like, no, I have a fifth grader. Don't worry about it. You're not super early. That family is, though, right? So make sure that you guys are keeping up with kind of our trainings. Make sure that you guys are kind of keeping yourself informed about what's going on in the financial aid marketplace, right? Now, takeaways from today is this. You might have thought that you were in the middle class. Unfortunately, the government and like the federal government in California and the colleges think that you're super rich, right? Remember that. That's the one key takeaway that you need to kind of understand from today, right? I get it. You've been wearing the same pair of socks for the last 7 years, right? You've been frugal with your money, and even so, you haven't really been able to save a lot, right? I understand the cost of living, right? I just went to go buy green onions, and I don't know why I always like fixate on green onions, but I use a lot of green onions. But I bought two green onions, and it was $1.50, and I was like, wait, did I do something wrong? What happened, right? Because just like last week, and again, I understand produce prices change depending on the weather and things like that, right? But last week it was 29 cents a bundle, and then this week it's 75 cents. I don't know what's going on. If the produce prices are tripling, we think that everything else might triple. Our money isn't really going to be worth anything anymore, right? So that's kind of one of the takeaways. You have to remember, you are not middle class. A lot of families are not middle class, right? So don't categorize yourself that way, right? And also because of that, make sure that you prepare early, right? The second is that while there are like a lot of unusually highly inflated incomes in the Bay Area, California, anywhere else, right? There are ways around it, right? And that's what I've been doing for the last decade and a half, right? And even high income individuals. And now I think everyone understands. According to colleges, high income individuals are people that make more roughly than $180,000 a year, right? So for you guys that are making $181,000, you are now in the high income category. Congratulations. Okay. So those are some of the takeaways that I want you to get from today, right? But I think it was really nice for us to be able to kind of like talk a little bit more, right? Get interactive, right? Have you guys ask questions. So I'll try to incorporate this in. Obviously, today we did it out of necessity because my presentation disappeared. But on other weeks, I'll try to integrate that in as well, right? We have another question here. It says, will we be using our 2023 taxes or 24 taxes for our 2026 graduates, please? So for the 2026 graduates, it will be the tax return from 2 years before. So it'll be the 2024 tax return. Okay. Now, how can we help? Well, I'm always here. I've literally, you can tell by the way my throat is right now, right? I have literally been having back to back to back to back to back financial aid consultations, right? So reach out to us by email, Facebook, Discord, right? Whatever you can. If our team has texted you, yes, those are real people texting you. Please reach out to them. They can schedule you a call, do this and do that, right? I don't want families to walk into this blind. I've had too many families be like, oh, I came to some of your trainings, I did it on my own, and then I didn't really get a lot. I'm like, why would you do that? Why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you let me give you some more advice before you did something, right? There's a lot of intricacies and nuances that I can't really go over in every single training, right? So I have to give more generalized information because I don't want to mess up one person's versus another, right? So again, if you have a senior this year and you have not signed up for a financial aid consultation and you're already in our coaching program, I know that our team has told you already about it, right? If you're not in our coaching program, well, now this is your chance. Go and sign up, right? We'll have some QR codes. We'll have some links later on. Okay. But make sure to reach out to us, right? I'm very easy to talk to. I'm a very nice guy most of the time, right? So ask your question, right? Make sure that you guys, reach out to us so that we can give you some more information. Okay. Now, I always brag about results. I'm going to change my results because we have a lot more, but sometimes I copy these last pieces over, right? But I was able to help this family, right? They make $350,000. Again, this family is considered a high income family, right? They own their own home too, and they have rental properties. But I was able to get them 30, 35, $37,000 from different private schools, right? This family made 440, right? Bay Area family, assets over $2 million, owned their own home, they had a business, they had other land property like undeveloped land, right? 42 grand at Baylor, right? And this family, right? 230. Again, 230. What we think is middle kind of class in the Bay Area, not middle class. They are considered high income, but even for this family was able to get around $32,000. This student's going to UC Davis, right? Starting this fall. Okay. Was also able to get a lot more money at other schools like Santa Clara and LMU, but they decided to go to UC Davis because the student really wanted to go there. Okay. So just quick thing, right? If you guys are interested in talking to us about financial aid, right? I don't know why I didn't take out that ugly white thing. It's just going to be egelloC now, right? So when you hear from us, it's going to be from egelloC Financial Aid, right? So just keep that in mind. But you can text 949-775-0865. And there's two different things you can text. You can text money or you can text college. If you're interested in financial aid, text money. If you're interested in kind of our college coaching programs or our 2026 programs, definitely do that as well. Okay. Now, we also have QR codes. Again, I try to make this as easy for you guys as possible, right? QR codes as well, right? I unfortunately don't have the link for our advisors, right? But I do have a link for financial aid. So I'm also going to put that into the chat as well. Okay. So I'll put that in here, right? To make it easy. Okay. And then I do want to make sure that I kind of answer questions. So let's go ahead and get into Q&A time so that we can do that, right? Unfortunately, all of those discounted plans that I had or like programs that I had from last week, they're all gone, right? So I know I told you guys I could only have 10 families that did it. I already had 10 families that signed up. So unfortunately, those are gone now, right? You snooze, you lose, right? So when I have those sorts of things, please make sure that you guys take advantage of them. I do flash sales every once in a while, but the current one is gone now. Okay, but let's go ahead and ask some questions here, right? It says, I have a 2026 grad, just not sure I can afford your help. I'm close to filling out FAFSA. Am I son applying? You shouldn't be close to filling out FAFSA because it doesn't open yet, right? So don't fill it out. Stop, right? And even if you cannot afford it, that doesn't mean that you can't have a consultation with me, right? I have plenty of people that come and I can't help them, but that's okay because part of the reason I'm here is to give you guys information, right? And so I want to talk about your situation. And if I talk through your situation and I'm like, I wish there was families, if you're in here and I've had a consultation with you and I was like, you know what, you don't need to do it, right? You don't need to work with us. You can get enough money on your own. I wish one of those families was here so they can tell you that I do that. I don't try to sell every single family, right? It's just not in me, right? So if I know that, again, we have a money back guarantee. So if I know that I'm going to give you a refund, why even take your money in the first place? If I can't get you any more money than you could get on your own, why go down that moral and ethical dilemma road to do that? I just tell them that, you know what, you can get a lot of money on your own. Okay. So But here is another question. It says, is that getting 32 off of the tuition or total cost after aid? So when I think you're talking about the last example I had for Davis. So the total cost of attendance of a UC is $45,000 a year, roughly speaking. That's tuition, housing, food, books, transportation, all this and all that, right? I was able to get the family $32,000 off. They're basically paying about 12 grand, right? 11, 12 grand a year to go to school. That means they're paying about $3,300 a quarter at the UC Davis. Okay. And then we have another question. It says, someone said, oh, we're doing it on October 1st. Awesome. My son is getting recruited and they want him to apply ED. So if you say that you're getting recruited, right? If you say you're getting recruited, I'm guessing it's like for athletics, right? Depending on what school it is, we'll talk through the situation when we have your consultation. But sometimes it's very different, right? Because in some situations, right? Yeah. So if it's a D3, then they can't really give you any money. So we have to see what we can get on the financial aid side, right? If you already have a consultation signed up for, then you don't need to necessarily text us because you're already signed up for that consultation. So if you're already signed up, we should be good to go, right? Um, oh, 1 second. I think I read this wrong. You said doing it on October 1st. I think that means you were going to fill out the FAFSA on October 1st. One very important piece of information that I tell families, please do not do it on October 1st, right? October 1st is when the rat race starts. Everyone tries to get their forms in. The website crashes. Like all the glitches are there, and we don't even know what's going on with it. It doesn't matter if you do it on October 1st or if you do it 10 days later, right? So you want, it's kind of like when a new store opens up. I never go to the grand opening. Never. I'll never do it, right? Because everything is always horrible, right? You go to a restaurant's grand opening, they don't got napkins, they don't even have forks, right? You got to eat with your hands, right? The servers don't know what they're doing. Your food is cold when it comes out. So I wait a couple weeks, maybe a month until I go to that new restaurant because it's like, well, now they got everything in order, right? Um, so keep that in mind. We have a question. It says, so in here, there's a follow-up. It says, so what if we want a consultation? Do we still call that number? You can call that number. You can actually scan that QR code right on the left. That one's for the financial aid, right? And then you can book a call that way, or you can text that number, 949-775-0865. Just text money to it, and then our team will reach out to you. We have another question that says, what is the difference between the links? There is no difference. It's the same link. I just want to put it in there 3 times because I don't know. Someone might say, oh, I can't see it. I can't see it. So there it is again. Okay. So please make sure to do that, right? I have too many families where it's like, yeah, like my kid got into this school, but we can't go because of the cost. And I'm like, wait, let me look over everything. It's like, what do you mean you didn't get anything? And they're like, oh yeah, like we turned in all the forms, we didn't get anything. And I'm like, you did something wrong. And then they're devastated because now they can't send their kid to the school that they really want because they can't afford it, right? I don't want you to be in that situation. Okay. So please, again, one last time, 949-775-0865. Text money if you want financial aid. Text college for our coaching programs. The links are up there as well. I'm going to leave this screen up so you guys can take a screenshot real quick. If you can't take a screenshot right now, just go, or if you guys can't take, or like, if you guys can't scan the QR code right now because you're watching on your phone, just take a quick screenshot of it and then use your partner's or your kid's phone to sign up for the consultation later. Okay. So I'll leave this up for a couple more minutes. I don't see any other questions. But if you guys do have any other questions, make sure to reach out on Facebook, on Discord, email, whatever you guys can. Okay. I'll talk to you guys again soon. I'll be back next Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And we'll go over some other new exciting things. Okay. All right. Everyone have a great night. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye bye.